Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are watching Off the Track, and it is time to drop the hammer.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Off the Track, episode number 39. We are closing in on episode 40 and 50 as we keep rolling along each week. So welcome back to another Wednesday show. I'm your host, Tanner Holmes, and also joining me today, my best friend and co-host, Bennett Gooch. Bennett, how have you been?
Pretty good. Finally got to go back to a racetrack over the weekend, so that was a lot of fun. And it's kind of, I think, touch on it. It was snowing at your house the other weekend or so, or sometime during the week. It's been raining here, so I'm enjoying it. You know, I don't want summer to come too quick because it's going to be pretty hot. So I'm kind of enjoying the rain and the muggy weather we got. Because I know it's kind of funny, but me and you both agree we love thunderstorms. Like, they're just awesome.
Oh, storms are the best. Now, we haven't actually up here. We haven't had really any like too big of thunderstorms. It's mainly been just a lot of rain as well, but hopefully a couple kind of roll in. The whole West Coast has just been getting hit, and honestly, the whole country in general. I know, the last couple of weekends, a lot of places have struggled to just get races in, which kind of leads me into my first point of what I wanted to touch on. This last weekend, we were planning on racing. I think kind of at the end of the last episode, we ended with, it doesn't look good, but we're going to see. And, there's a very strong chance we weren't going to race, and that ended up being the situation at hand. We were planning on running the Grays Harbor Raceway up in Elma, Washington. That rained out, along with pretty much every track on the West Coast, at least for sprint car racing. The only track that ended up getting a chance to run was Watsonville, the Ocean Speedway, on Friday night, and they actually had beautiful weather. I got the chance. Did you get the chance to watch that one on Flow?
Watsonville, no, I didn't.
Gotcha. It ended up being, it's crazy. The surface there is kind of starting to come around a little bit. Ended up being a pretty exciting race between a handful of drivers. And since other tracks weren't running, everybody that wanted to get a race in had to go there. So there was actually some guys that maybe you don't see there necessarily on a weekly basis, but, they're trying to continue to get their program rolling before, we really start to get into kind of like mid-May, June, when there's going to be a lot of money on the line. So now's the time to get your cars right because you don't want to, be focusing on that once, the big shows roll around. But Watsonville was a good race on Friday. And then Grays Harbor, as I mentioned, Placerville, Marysville, all the Saturday shows were completely washed out here along the West Coast. Cottage Grove, they had a wingless show, Bennett, and they said we're going to try and run because backstory, I think the week before they canceled pretty early on Friday, which, some of these tracks trying to cancel give people a chance ahead of time with,
right,
just the cost of what it is to get to the races, which is totally understandable.
Right.
They canceled, and I think, honestly, they probably could have raced, so I kind of wonder if maybe they were kicking themselves because the weather ended up turning around on them on Saturday, and it really wasn't that wet. This last weekend, they tried to get the show in, and then it ended up biting them, and I think they canceled at like 4 o'clock.
Yeah, a little too late there, especially for teams traveling far out.
Yeah, and it was a decent sight. I think that was the wingless opener, so they weren't able to get it in. Is what it is. They tried their best, and I think they have a couple. I think there's a couple more wingless races kind of coming up. That starts their portion of the season here at the end of April. My weekend ended up being very quiet. We got some work done in the shop. Had our normal Easter with our close family here in the area. You had a pretty exciting weekend, though, that you kind of previewed on the last podcast as you talked about the little trip you were heading on just down south a couple of hours to a different form of racing than what we usually talk about here on the pod.
Yeah, we went down south of Sonoma for the GT World Challenge Tour America Race 1. Now, initially going down there, I was doing some research because they released an entry form or entry sheet or something, and I only saw 20 cars on it, and I was like, well, are we about to drive 3 hours to watch 20 cars? And then, so I was a little nervous going down. I was like, oh, well, we'll go down, watch it. And actually it blew my mind. There was a lot more going on than what you really kind of see on Instagram or social media or whatnot. So GT World Challenge Tour America's the main show, right? So it'd be like if World of Outlaws came. But then there's a bunch of other classes or divisions that race along with it, but not at the same time. So it was awesome. We got to go down there. We showed up for practice at 8:15 a.m. and it was raining actually. So I think that's kind of the cool part. I think I sent you some videos, and then you probably, if some people watch my YouTube video, you saw when we were there, practice and qualifying was in the rain for the cars. So, you're racing these high horsepower cars really fast, going left and right, up and down hills in the rain. So everyone was slipping and sliding around. It was pretty fun to watch. And then about after qualifying and practice, midday around 11, 12, kind of to clear off, and we got to dry track, and we got to watch all the first races. So they race on Saturday, their first race, and then race Sunday, their second race. We got to watch all those races be sunny, and it's pretty fun to watch all these cars.
So I guess like obviously with their setup and everything, they probably had to set it up way different, like to run in the morning for their practicing in the rain, and then kind of almost like completely change things up for once like the track dries out, right?
Yeah. So it's you remember, did you watch COTA, Circuit of the Americas, the NASCAR race, the year Chase Elliott won, which was like 2021?
Yeah.
So they did their outlap, and everyone was on slicks, Well, it started to rain, so a bunch of people chose to come down pit road and get like rain tires. Well, the same thing happened during qualifying. Like a bunch of the teams decided to throw on rain tires at the last moment, and it paid dividends because it rained the whole session, and they only get 15-minute qualifying sessions. So, each lap at Sonoma is pretty long, so you don't get many laps, but it's kind of cool just to see the way they do that.
That is neat. And so I've only been to Sonoma like one time. It was really cool just for like one of the NASCAR races when they kind of roll through on their West Coast swing. Were you guys, you were like right by pit road, right? Or what exactly part of the racetrack were you guys viewing from?
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. So NASCAR is usually like a pretty big event. So you have your hot pit passes or pit passes, or you're assigned a seat. This is completely open, so when you pay general admission, you can go anywhere you want. You walk through the pits, you can stand right above the pit lane on this main grandstands, and you can go anywhere you want to watch. So I feel like that's pretty cool. Not a huge amount of fans there. I didn't think there would be that many, but you could walk around and go anywhere you want. We walked the pits, went over the bridge. The bridge shots are awesome to watch those cars rip under you and whatnot. But yeah, you can view anywhere you want, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, that is neat, especially like for, if someone that doesn't get to go to the races all the time, to have that kind of access. Like you go to a NASCAR race and there's so many people, and sometimes, not that you kind of get like disconnected from what's going on, but like if you have the chance to get up close and see the drivers and see the crew guys like at work, that only makes you feel more attached.
Right.
Did you get the chance to like talk to any drivers or any crew or get like super, super up close?
Yeah. So when we went through the pits the first time, there is a bunch of different divisions. And so there's this division called TC or TCX. And that's pretty much where they're racing a stock like car out of the showroom. The only modifications are on it is like suspension and I think maybe some safety stuff, but that's it. Like the motor that comes out of the showroom is the motor you're running and whatnot. And then we got to talk to this girl named Sally McNulty, and she's got a pretty big social media presence. And she explained a little bit about her division and whatnot on my channel. We went over and talked to some other bigger teams. So another division called GT America. So don't quote me on any of this because I don't fully understand it all yet. Is a great learning weekend, but this division's a lot more higher horsepower. Like I'm pretty sure he was saying his Corvette was like a $500,000 to $800,000 car.
Wow.
And guess how much? So you know how much it costs to race a sprint car every weekend. Guess how much it costs to race one of the like showroom Honda floor cars in TC, and then one of the like GT America cars in a weekend.
I would say the lower class. Let's say like I'm gonna say 10 grand. I don't know. Maybe that's too much. Really
close.
10, and then the top class has got to be more close to the 50 plus. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe 30 plus.
Yeah. So GT America, he said on a low budget, and this is like really cheap. He showed up with his car with a rental trailer, only a front bumper, and 2 sets of tires. Like that's it for $25,000 a weekend to race his car.
That's in the top class.
That's just GT America.
Oh, okay.
So the top class, you're I think you're right. Like a 30 to 50 is probably pretty
Gotcha.
reasonable to race. But the low class is 15,000 a weekend. So definitely pretty expensive. But they only race 7 races throughout the year, but they're all like double headers. So they race Saturday, Sunday, but they get there on Wednesday and practice. So I guess when you add it up, it's not too bad, but at the same time, it's pretty expensive.
For sure. It'd be interesting to know like the kind of like how much, that what the payback is. And then just like, that is one thing I always think is really interesting is like how race teams, if they can, like their business model and like, how where they pull revenue from in order, just to make a team go around, because a lot of people, just think don't necessarily think it's simple, but these race teams, there's so much to them. And I think that's like very fascinating because I just like business stuff.
Right.
So I'm glad you had such a great experience down there. That is something that's really cool. And that you got to see. So like those guys, you said they were, obviously at Sonoma. Do you know where do they head next?
Ozarks Raceway, actually. So it's you can go on GT World Challenge America and look at their schedule, but I was told 7 races throughout the year, and the next one's at Ozark Raceway. And they got a bunch of different tracks. I forgot the other names of them, but they're pretty well-known tracks. I think one was Road of America, but I don't think they're going there anymore this year. But no, you can follow along with them. It's all free on YouTube. So that's one thing I was going to mention, the social media side of things. Everything, you can watch the whole weekend, everything for free on YouTube. Like their YouTube channel live streams it, full broadcast coverage.
That's impressive. That's cool that they do that. I kind of actually wish more series would maybe do something along the lines of that, because that's got to help their viewership,
right,
as far as like, building their brand and expanding it.
Right. Yeah, I think it was pretty fun. And next time, if we get the chance. Oh, and I was gonna say, one thing we got to do before, like, we hang it up or anything like that. We're running the 25-hour $500 car race at Willows. So
at Willows,
I'm putting together our biggest like a BMW jalopy, and we're running it 25 hours. We got it.
That'd be a dream come true.
Hey, our endurance record is 1 of 1. So 1 race, 1 win. So we're looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, we just pull those kind of races out of the back corner every once in a while. So we're gonna have another one coming up here soon. When does that race run? Like what month?
I would have to ask, but it's kind of funny. So like, I can look it up real quick, but it's kind of like how Kyle Busch said over the week, backed his way into that one. Kind of what we do on those races.
Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, we'll have to keep you guys updated on that. That should be like our fun little side project as we go through the years, as we just kind of keep trying to find endurance races to run. So that's a little bit on Bennett's weekend. There was also one other topic in today's show. We were chatting before, there was nothing really racing related, so we're going to be hitting on some other stuff today. Bennett, you had another thing that you wanted to cover before we actually talk about the NASCAR situation of Bristol Dirt.
Mm-hmm. So something that we've kind of talked about this a little bit, and I think I'm going to be going to ground school soon. So it's kind of cool for people that don't know. I've been working at like an airport or whatever, and I'm ground crew for a Boeing 737-800 series. And so like out of high school, I don't know if I told you that maybe a long time ago, but I wanted to be a bomber pilot for CAL FIRE, for like the fires.
Yeah.
And so, didn't pursue that because other reasons. You have to go through the military or something like that and be put on the reserves for a chance to even get hired. So, working at the airport's kind of grown my interest a lot more. And I think we're going to be going to ground school soon. So hopefully we got our pilot's license and we'll be flying to the track soon to race the Dwarf car. Maybe up north we'll land at Medford National or something, or Medford Municipal.
Yeah, that would be super exciting. Some background, like in my family. So my dad has his pilot's license. He used to fly all the time, helicopters and stuff like that. And I always thought that would be something that would be like really cool to do. And my dad got out of the business for just a lot of different reasons. And now he really has no interest in ever flying again. But I've always tried to convince him, because so I guess my dad's not going to take me. So I'm kind of relying on you, Bennett, to get the deal done so we can rip around.
Yeah, I'll get my pilot's license and we can make appearances whenever.
And I guess to any of our viewers listening, if you do have your pilot's license or anything along the lines in that area, let us know, because that like Bennett said, that is something that has both interested us, and he's finally pulling the trigger, so that's going to be really, really neat. The next topic on today's show, something that has been hot in the news as far as racing went, with a lot of with not a lot of dirt racing this weekend. The one thing that filled that void was the NASCAR race on dirt at Bristol, and a chaotic last lap. Bennett mentioned how Kyle Busch words, how he backed into a win. What were your thoughts? And I mean, I'm assuming just like I was, you were kind of on the edge of your seat there, for the ending.
Yeah, so obviously, I didn't get to watch the whole race because we were at a rodeo, but I did get to watch the ending, so I guess that's the part that matters. I feel like, to start out, NASCAR hit a home run on the dirt track. This year was 10 times better than the track that they had last year. Seemed like it was actually racy, 2 lanes. You had a lot of lead changes and whatnot. So props to them for finally putting together a dirt track that didn't rubber up and just, 1 lane around the bottom. But no, last lap, I was on the edge of my seat. And I think the only way you could go about this is, that's what you have to do. There's no other way Chase Briscoe is going to win that race unless he gets into the side of Reddick. But, it sucks they both spun out. It would have been cool to see him drag race to the end, but I don't know how these cars really handle on dirt, so I don't know if you can really touch them that well. But did you watch a truck race at all with Buddy?
I did see portions of it, and honestly, it looked like the trucks raced really well too. Right. And Buddy looked really good for a majority of the race.
So that's what I was gonna say. It looked like Buddy did very well. But he tried to pull a classic dirt racing move just like any of us would, and that's kind of maybe grab the brake a little and cut under someone to cross him over after a slide job. And I just don't think you can maneuver these cars that tight and critical, because he ended up spinning out trying to make that move. And you can't fault him because he's a dirt racer and he knows that's what you normally do. But you get thrown in one of these cars that are way heavier, slower reaction time, but have still a good amount of horsepower. I don't think there's much more Reddick and Briscoe could have done there, other than maybe keep it straight and tag the wall with the whole side of the car to straighten them out. But I don't really see it ending in any other way, because if he just follows him into the corner, Reddick won by a mile. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. Because at first I'm like, well, regardless, I was excited because Kyle got it done. I was like, that's 100%. Cool. Those guys needed that. They've been struggling so bad. Not that they were really the best car, but backing into a win is a win.
Right.
But yeah, that last lap, I don't think there's really another way to go about it. I think that's part of why Reddick wasn't, because I was kind of confused. I thought Reddick was going to be a little bit more mad, but also I saw the typical racer in him where it was like, well, no, if I would have done this, this, and this, he would have not even been close. And also I think he understood that Briscoe didn't really have another option. If Briscoe was going to have a shot at winning the race, he's going to do that. And I think if Reddick was in Briscoe's shoes, he would have done the same thing.
Right.
So I think that's kind of where it's fair game. You don't have, it's not like you have one guy that's extremely dirty wearing out a clean racer. It's like you have 2 respectable guys that they probably would have, if the roles were reversed, I don't know if the outcome really would have changed. And so, for me, that's fair game. That was a fair race. And as you said, NASCAR, I think, did kind of do a very good job. I think the rain helped a little, but the surface was much better. Seems like the cars slid around a little bit more. It wasn't just like watching a dirt asphalt race. It was like watching more of a dirt race. And no matter what, another thing you said, the cars are they're different. They're not going to drive 100% like dirt cars. You're not going to see all these crazy sliders and maneuvers. And but so I think for the product that NASCAR was going after, I feel like they kind of achieved, and I'm not really sure if it could have been too much crazier. For what they had. They were in traffic, came down to the last corner, a slide job. There was no way the slider was ever going to really work, but it made it interesting. And I guess, like I said, as far as what they're going for, that is, I think they accomplished it. So, the only thing, I'm not saying I don't want them to go back to Bristol next year. I don't even know another track they could go to besides Eldora that I think would be really good. But I do feel like it could be cool if they somehow could switch it up, and kind of change it every year. I know that makes it more difficult for it to be better every year because you could run into a year where the track just sucks or whatever happens depending on what facilities you go to. But I think that NASCAR did hit on something with the dirt, and I think it's a positive for the sport as a whole, whether you're an open wheel or you're fender or you like asphalt or you like dirt racing. I think it's a positive for all involved.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I was thinking about that. Obviously, the turnout at Bristol with the real dirt cars, sprint cars, and late models and stuff, just wasn't there. Did the sprint cars even run there this year?
I think they're getting ready to, so we're
Okay.
going to kind of see. But that
Right.
late model show, there was like, the attendance was actually pretty poor.
Was very bad, and so that's what I think. I'm in agreement there. I think you got what you wanted out of Bristol, but I would personally like to see one of the NASCAR series go to a purposely built dirt track such as Eldora or Knoxville. We've seen how great the races can be there in the truck series, and I think if they together right, I think Cup would be phenomenal to watch run there. Only issue, and I want your opinion on this, which is going to make it hard, is I think there's easily 50 tracks in the United States that would be fantastic to watch, the Cup cars race on or trucks race on. But the problem is they don't have the seating to accommodate the fans. You know what I mean? And if they can't accommodate the fans and sell tickets and whatnot and sell merchandise, well, they're not going to make any money, so they're not going to go there. What are your thoughts on that? Because I feel like our really only 2 or 3 options to make that happen would be possibly, Knoxville, Eldora, and maybe Port Royal. I mean, what are the big facilities out there? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think those probably are your only options. I don't know what Port Royal's seating exactly looks like. I know they can hold. I think they can hold a lot. I think Eldora is the common one that we would all
Right.
say is probably, and I don't even know what the attendance is there. I do kind of roughly think that I thought Knoxville was over 20,000, which is a substantial amount. I don't know how many people were at Bristol for their dirt race, but it did look like a very good turnout. So I think it's tough, because I've actually felt this way about NASCAR in general, even not on dirt, like asphalt. They have the same schedule every year, which is good. I get we have these big premier facilities with a ton of money into them, and they're built for this big show. But I feel like that's kind of where they start to miss people is, that's why the Outlaws are cool, because you can catch the Outlaws sometimes at just some, they're basically junkyard
Right.
tracks sometimes. The Outlaws still go to them.
Right.
If the track can fork up the money and meet all the requirements that the Outlaws provide, even if it is not a top-notch facility or it is what it is, the Outlaws will still show up, and they'll make it work. And I think that's really cool. You can just live in some small town and, drive to your local dirt track, and you might get to see some of the best in the world. Where NASCAR, it's just, it's different. So I think that's where that disconnect comes in, that I've always thought if NASCAR could, sometimes, they have to hit the big places, but also have a couple places that, just would, because, and also those short tracks, typically what they are, provide really good racing.
Right.
So yeah, they're in a little bit of a different spot, and I think this new car could shake things up to maybe where they could hit some of the smaller places and change their schedule up. But as far as the dirt goes, yeah, I think Eldora it would be the next one, and I feel like they could get that place where it would be really good, on the fence, a bottom, a middle, almost like a late model race there, but it would still, obviously race different. So as far as, NASCAR continuing on dirt, I think it's a good thing. I just would hate for it to turn into like some of these other tracks on the asphalt side where it's the same thing every year.
Right.
And, it's not necessarily improving. It could get worse. It could just kind of stay stagnant. But I feel like where the sport's at now, there's so much changing and evolving that, these people always got to stay on top of, what they can do to just be a little bit better or change things up, just so we're not kind of, over time eventually just losing back people that we gained.
Right. Oh, to answer your question, Knoxville Raceway seats 21,135 people. So that's
Wow,
pretty big.
That's a ton for a dirt track.
Right. And what's cool is they fill that out. I mean, 410 Nationals, they fill that out completely.
Oh yeah, I mean, and and it's just, yeah, that's a whole nother topic of conversation, just like what Knoxville does. And even Eldora, like their big events, how many people flock there. So I think, maybe they could do some sort of, race as far as a NASCAR show, or, obviously the trucks have made it work at both those facilities. I guess part of it probably is more logistics too. Like,
Right.
What that costs. I can't even speak on those subjects of, there's probably a lot of headaches, involved, as much as it's a cool event, to make all of that work. But I guess nonetheless, an exciting finish. I think that was really good for dirt racing, and hopefully it helps both sides of the equation, us open wheel guys and dirt racing, and then, all the fender and all the forms they have over there, where we can mutually grow together. And I think, everyone had a good time and is looking forward to, it happening again.
Right. Another cool thing to add there, Port Royal, guess how many Royal seats?
I would say, let's say 12,000.
I don't know a specific number, but it says a little over 6,000. So a big difference there. But the thing is about Port is I think they want to keep growing it, if I'm correct, based on what I've kind of seen in the off season and whatnot, and making it better. The only thing is, I think they might be landlocked with houses and stuff. You know what I mean? On the backside.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, I was about to say, like, honestly, they could probably have a ton.
Right.
It's just, yeah, that whole backstretch. I've never been there before, so our PA people, comment if we're wrong here. But yeah, it doesn't look like there's obviously nothing for like most of the track.
Mm-hmm.
You just have the one side. I think Eldora's got to be up there. I would think somewhere close to Knoxville as far as how many people. But yeah, I just don't think there's actually really another dirt track, obviously, that can do those numbers, because 6,000 people's a lot. You fill that up for an outlaw show, the Tusky 50 or whatever, everyone's making money, and they can obviously afford to pay those large purses. But once you get into the NASCAR and truck money, obviously what probably costs, it's just,
Guess how much Eldora seats?
I'm going to say 14,000.
30,000 people.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay, so
way more.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, maybe Eldora. So yeah, I don't know why Eldora is not more in the picture then.
Right, and I think Eldora is probably the next place to go. I think the truck races there were a success, and I think NASCAR could be even better.
Yeah, so that'll be something we'll have to keep our eye on and definitely touch on in the podcast coming up. One last topic for us just to quickly glaze over, because man, I have seen it all over my Facebook feed, so I figured we'd just openly discuss it. But tires. Hasn't that been a hot topic lately in all forms of racing? We've seen some price increases lately on all of our sprint car stuff. Hoosier's been pretty vocal on, they've been trying to communicate, why and what's going on and the struggles that they're facing. But I guess everybody's kind of in the same boat. Tires are just becoming a little bit harder to get, and everyone has their kind of, I guess, opinion on what the solution is, or this or that. But everyone's kind of in a different spot on what they're looking for. But I think it's very common, though, for most guys are not happy about what's going on.
Right. And I know a lot. So I know you were going to ask, what it kind of looks like in my side of things in the dirt world for the dwarf car and stuff. But, something to mention that, we're not burning off tires nearly as fast as sprint cars are. I mean, you guys have so much horsepower. Your tracks go a lot slicker by the time we roll out. We're probably on slick track, but nowhere near, I think, going rubber, other than certain occasions at certain places. But you in the sprint car, you guys rip through tires, a lot more than we ever will. I think maybe I was told we'll go through a set or two, maybe 3 sets a year, if that. I know
Gotcha.
you're stocking tires just for a couple weekends. You know what I mean? So I think this more affects the sprint cars for sure, but I think our prices have gone up as well.
That's good to hear that it's not affecting you guys as much. I don't know. The whole thing is just like a complete, mess, but what you said is a fact. Yeah, I mean, the sprint car guys are getting hit pretty hard, and late models, I'm not 100% up, but it sounds like, those guys, obviously they burn through tires. Anything that goes fast, is hard on track conditions, and then therefore, is hard on tires. The one good thing I will say is, this year, most of the country is switching over to the H tire for the sprints, both left rear and right rear. So what's going to be nice is we're all going to be on the same thing. So you can run that, wherever you're at. You're not having to dismount tires to run a 410 and then switch back to this for a 360. And then when you go to California, you got to be on an HTW, which is a wider right rear. So I think that there's some things going in the right direction. Like that is really cool that California and, everyone is heading that way, which also means, some of these guys that when, like, let's say you run a 305 and you're going to run H tires, when the Outlaws come through and they maybe have takeoffs, you can run all their takeoff tires, right?
Right.
And you can, because those guys throw away a lot of pretty good rubber, but, if you're trying to run against the Outlaws, you got to you got to have brand new stuff a lot of the time, or at least that's what, a lot of the top teams are doing. But yeah, the whole thing is just, kind of crazy. The other word I talked about, shortage, from some of my Midwest friends, I'm not sure how true it is from each dealer, but, some of them are talking about how they're limited to how many tires they can buy each night. And in, California, I'm not exactly sure the situation. I was just speaking briefly with some of my friends about it, but yeah, it is crazy. So I guess we'll just have to see if it gets better or gets worse. I can't really imagine it getting too much better because Hoosier has talked about, all of their struggles, which in turn becomes the driver's struggles as prices go up and, they're harder to come by, and maybe that causes, panic buying. But that is definitely something that heavily affects, racing because, obviously tires are a necessity. So I think that is everyone's struggle at the current moment. I guess we'll just kind of have to see where this continues because it's been going on for a little bit now, but I feel like more than ever, there's so much commotion that it's just causing havoc in the community.
Yeah. Do you think? Because I know, so a set of 4 for like the dwarf car is like $500. What's a set of 4 sprint car tires on a sprint car look like? How much?
So right now, right rears got increased. Like right rears and left rears, I think right rears are about is like $300 now, and left rear is not too far behind that. The fronts then I think are upwards of 2. I think with the price increase, depending on where you're at, because that's the weird part. If I'm correct, because I know like when we were in the Midwest last year, we actually tried to stock up on some tires because they're like $50 cheaper at the time.
Right.
So tires out there were cheaper, and then once by the time they make it out here, they're in the 260 to 300 range. So it's just, so you add that up, if you're almost $600 into your rear tires, and then you're, another, let's say just 200 to 250 in each front. I think it's close to 250,
right?
Maybe even 260. So that's $1,000 in tires. So yeah, almost, plus. So it's horrible. You can't, if you're burning off tires every night, most guys aren't going to be able to do it. And it's very expensive, but also in turn, the problem that this causes is then, guys want to keep the tracks wetter so we don't burn up tires, and then maybe it gets rough, and
right.
then the product's not as good, and then the racing's not as good. So like, it's a huge domino effect that actually is very frustrating because, then at some point it's like, well, why are we doing this? But also like, then when you're burning up tires, it sucks. So like, it's a double-edged sword.
That's what I was going to say. It really gets you. It just gets you in a spiral, like you said, because I'm saying, you don't want to burn off tires, but at the same time, when you're racing on a track that ain't touching tires, it's not that fun. You're wide open. But I just actually got a new number in. So I couldn't go get tires right now if I wanted to. And our tires increased. So they're $140 a tire now. They were $125 last year. So they did increase. So It's now $560 to get them. So yeah, we're all seeing it. And like I said, I just asked my go-to guy. He doesn't even have any in stock right now. He says you just got to wait for a fresh batch and get on the list. So,
yeah, and then once they pull up, they're gone as quick as they probably, arrive.
Right. And I think, like I said, the dwarf cars we're not touching tires much. So I can't imagine, sprint cars and these high horsepower race cars. It's just not good all around.
Yeah. I'm no expert, so this is just kind of us talking about it. But, one solution I have seen maybe is, just obviously going to a harder compound, and that would mean everybody, getting on a hard compound. And being on the same tire would be the only way for that to work. I've seen discussion of people saying that Goodyear needs to get involved in this and that, but like I said, I'm not an expert, so I'll leave it to all those guys to figure it out. But at the end of the day, it's just kind of a crummy situation, but it's another one of those things that we can't control. So we just, we continue to be racers and we just deal with, the hand that we're dealt.
Right.
As far as what this weekend is going to look like for our team, as long as the weather holds off, we will be at the Grays Harbor Raceway for their season opener. It's looking a lot more promising than last, which is exciting. I really want to get back to that place. They've kind of reconfigured it this year, got some more banking in it. It doesn't shelf off as bad. And I think we would see a pretty decent 360 car count, as that's like the Northwest opening night for 360s. And then California's also got a couple of shows. And if all goes to plan, if Carly is going to be on track with us up in Washington, and we got some videos and stuff coming regarding that topic. So that's all the information I can give you on that. But it's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, we're looking forward to getting back on track after kind of one weekend off. Was there anything else you wanted to add, Bennett?
Not too much. I think my schedule I was going to release, we were going to race this weekend and then the following weekend, but we got a lot of stuff going on in the rodeo side of things. So I think we're going to put that on hold, and our first race will be in May now. So just next month. But other than that, still trucking along per our schedule. Haven't ran into too much of, any bad things yet. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we keep having good years for the both of us.
Heck yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you. This was a great episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and we will see you guys once again next Wednesday on Off the Track.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are watching Off the Track, and it is time to drop the hammer.